Myth. There were only 2 towers destroyed on 9/11.
Let's see if that's true. How many of you have never heard of World Trade Center Building 7, the third skyscraper to collapse on that day? I didn't hear about it until about 4 years ago. Most architects and engineers know nothing about this high-rise. How many of us haven't heard of this? Pretty much. Maybe just only a little. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, let's take a look at this building. It's pretty important. This was the third skyscraper to collapse on 9/11. It was about a football field in length away from what was at one time the highest buildings in the world when they were built for about a year. It may be dwarfed next to those, but it would be like the highest building in most of our states. Now, this building wasn't hit by an airplane, so its manner of destruction is really quite interesting for us researching this. It collapses at about 5:20 in the afternoon of 9/11. You can see here the North Tower has come down, and Building 7 is still standing. The North Tower is already down here, and the building is still standing. Fire started about 1 o'clock in the afternoon and burned for three or 4 hours. Let's take our first look at the collapse of this building, narrated by Dan Rather.
What you're seeing are high shots. Now, here we're going to show you a videotape of the collapse itself.
Describe that.
Now we go to videotape, the collapse of this building.
It's amazing.
Amazing, incredible, pick your word. For the third time today, it's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
Dan never repeats these words again after 9/11. He's using his intuition to describe what he's seeing, which is what we should all be doing. Looks like it was deliberately designed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down. In fact, most of us have never seen this building on mainstream television, even though it was the third worst structural failure in modern history. Let's take one more look from West Street. Smooth, symmetrical. The penthouse falls a second earlier, indicating core column damage. Let's bring it back up. A classic kink in the middle. We want to keep that building from damaging any other buildings. Well, I'm not quite convinced yet. Let's put a known controlled demolition on the right and Building 7 on the left. Is there any similarities? Is there enough similarity to warrant an investigation into the possible use of explosives? Since every other high-rise that has ever come down in history has been brought down with explosives, and fire has never brought one down in history at all.
Myth. WTC-7 was fully engulfed in fire.
Let's take a look at these fires. On the 12th and 13th floor at 2:30, we have fires starting in the area where the initiation of collapse is said to have begun. The problem is that by 4:30, those fires, by 3:50, an hour, more than an hour before the collapse of this building, those fires have moved away from that area. In other words, that area has cooled. The steel has regained its strength. The official story...
Can I interrupt here, too? Mm-hmm. For firefighters, when you're looking at this, you see fire there on floor about 8, 9, but what we're talking about is floor 12 and 13. And NIST says the collapse initiated on floor 13, column 79. So where we're talking about is on 12 and 13 there, the fire has burned out for the most part up above. So the highest intense heat is gone. So it should be cooler than what we see below.
Well, NIST shows us that massive fires, this is their fire simulation from their report, massive fires around column 79 in the last couple hours of the building. But as you saw in the photographs, that fire is gone in that area. More likely, the fire simulation looks like this. Move through column 79 in about 20 minutes, which is how long the fires are expected to last in a given area, and moves over to this other side of the building, the east side. So let's take a look. This is the area of the initiation of collapse because the east penthouse collapses about 6 seconds prior to the overall penthouse, which collapses about 1 second prior to the global collapse of the building. Now, at first we heard that there's massive structural damage to the south side of this building. Well, were that the case, we would expect this building to fall over toward its area that's damaged. But NIST pulls that now, and they say it was not a significant factor at all. And in addition, they say the diesel fuel lines, which were run through from the 5th floor where the diesel generators were, that was not a factor at all in the collapse of this building, diesel fuel. These were the two main reasons Popular Mechanics, for instance, one of those supporters of the official story, used to discredit the 9/11 Truth movement, even though what we were talking about all along was something very different, which we'll get to, the free fall acceleration of this building. Now, the official story tells us that these long span beams heated up in the first of its kind new phenomena called thermal expansion. What these beams did is heated up and expanded. And when they did that, they knocked this girder, pushed it off of its seat on this column 79. Well, first of all, these are fireproofed beams. They're not going to be expanding. They're protected. And again, those fires last about 20 minutes in a given area. So they're fully protected. Second of all, this girder is connected by shear studs to the composite metal and concrete decking up above. Also, if this girder fell off of its seat, it probably wouldn't even have reached the floor, much less cause the cascading collapse of the 12th floor onto the 11th, the 10th, the 9th, for 9 floors, leaving this column unbraced for 9 floors when they say it buckled and gave way. When that happened, this instability traveled laterally somehow through this robustly engineered building and vertically. And we're going to bring up a structural engineer in a moment to tell us how likely that scenario would have been. But then we have the entire building collapsing after its inside collapses. We'll come to that in a moment.
Myth. Fire has caused high-rise collapses before.
Now, this is, we've never seen it in the fire service. And these are three examples. Well, this first one's August 1970. It's a 50-story building in New York. It burned for over 6 hours on 5 floors. Then we have the One Meridian Plaza, or actually the First Interstate in Los Angeles. A 62-story building, burned for 3.5 hours over 5 floors. And then the One Meridian in Philadelphia, 38 stories, burned for over 18 hours over 8 floors. These were well involved. And all the pictures we have, of course, people there that were on 9/11 talked about the fires, but all the pictures we have, they don't match up with what we see in these other buildings.
If there was going to be any fire that would have brought a building down at the World Trade Center, it would have been at building number 5, fully engulfed in flames, as you can see. Did it come down? No. No collapse. Steel frame high-rises or mid-rises do not collapse as a result of fire. But surely this building in Beijing in February of last year came down as a result of this massive fire, fully engulfing 44 floors. We would expect, if any building's going to be coming down, maybe it would be this one. Did it come down? No. High-rises are not brought down due to office fires.